Okay, hi class. I apologize for not being here today and or tomorrow. Okay. So this video is actually gonna have both lessons, 27.1 and also 27.2. You can break it up however you want to. Either you can do the two lessons today, listen to them both on Thursday, or you can do one per day. You are going to have practice problems to do after each one of these lessons, and those will both be due on Monday when I get back. Okay. As for the quizzes, I'm still working on grading them, so they'll probably be in over the weekend in the grade book. But other than that, let's get started. Okay, so we're going to start off with 27.1. You'll notice that 27.1 and 27.2 are almost identical to one another. You're just adding more graphing of rational functions for that second part. Okay, so if you want to turn to page 417 in your books, that's where this lesson is. Also, if at any point you need to pause the video, please feel free to do so. And also, I'm going to ask you to work on problems during this lesson. Make sure you pause the video and then restart it when you want to hear the answers, okay? Okay, so the first section is going to be on formulating and graphing a rational function. We're going to both be looking at real world situations and then also graphing these equations on the axis plane, okay? Alright, so we're going to actually start off with an application problem. Okay, so what I want you to do while I'm reading this is to underline important information that is presented in these paragraphs. Okay, so it says the financial committee of a nonprofit summer camp for children is setting the cost for a 5-day camp. The fixed cost for the entire camp is $2,400 per day, and this includes rent, salaries, insurance, and equipment. An outside food service company will provide meals at a cost of $3 per camper meal. Campers will eat 3 meals a day. As a nonprofit camp, the camp must also cover its costs but not make any profit. That's what a non-for-profit is, okay? The committee must come up with a proposal for setting the fees for each camper based on the number of campers who are expected to attend each week, okay? So they're basically putting together what should each camper pay in order to cover their just cost, okay? So based on this information, what I would underline is each camper will pay $24 per day. And it costs $3 per camper for every meal, and they eat 3 meals a day. Another thing I would underline is the camp is 5 days. Okay, so all of the important numerical values in those paragraphs. Okay, so let's do this. Okay, we want to first answer what is the total fixed cost for the 5 days. Well, the way I look at it is if we have per day is $2,400. Okay. And the camp is 5 days. We want to multiply that by 5, and you're going to get $12,000, okay? So that's the fixed cost per for every camper, okay? Which in my opinion is really expensive, okay? Alright, so then it says, complete the table below to determine the fee per camper that will guarantee the camp does not lose money, okay? So let's think about it this way, okay? Is we can come up with any x values that we want. I'm just going to go up by, multiplying by 2. So let's say I do 25 campers. Okay, these are numbers I'm just coming up with. Then 50, okay, 75, 100, okay, let's say I go 200, 500, and then 1,000, okay? Yes. Okay, so then what we have to do is we have to calculate the fee per camper. Well, it said, okay, each camper will, it's $3 a meal per camper, okay, and they eat 3 times a day, okay? So how I'm going to come up with that is, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to say, okay, it's $3 per meal and they eat 3 times a day. That's going to be $9 per camper, okay? And then from there, if it's $9 per camper and I have 25 campers, okay, then I'm going to multiply 25 times 9, and that's going to be, let me do that really quick, okay, 25 times 9, that's going to be 225, okay? But also we want to figure out how much are they paying per day. So in order to cover that, okay, you're going to have $480, okay? And so I'm going to keep going up like that, okay? Next is going to be 240 because the more campers you have, the less money you have to cost them. Then you're going to do 160, 120, okay, 60. Okay, again, this is not really important to know how I got the numbers, but it's important to know how the pattern goes, okay? And so what I noticed the pattern is here is if I cost $12,000, okay, and then I was determining the number of campers and I was saying this is X, okay, what I would want to do for each one of these numbers is I would want to do the fixed cost 12,000 divided by the amount of campers I have, and that's how I got all the numbers on top. Okay, any questions? Okay, so then pause this video really quick, and I want you to graph what I just found on the axis and make an appropriate scale for that. Okay, pause the video now. Okay, so if I was to graph this, okay, let's say I want number of campers, okay, I'm just going to go up by 25s, okay, so I'll do 25 here. This will be 50, 75, that'll be 100, okay? Then I'm going to go 125, 150, 175, 200 is here, okay? So on and so forth, okay? 225, 250, 275, 3, and then 325, 50, 75, that would be 4, okay? And then 425, 450, 475, 500. You don't have to go all the way up to 1,000. You just have to have a good representation of data points. Okay. And then for the fee and campers, I would want to go from 12 to basically 500 would be the highest amount. Okay. And so what I would want to do is, let's say I was going up by, let's do 50s, okay? So like 50, 100, 150, 200, 250, okay, would be here. And then 300, 350, 400, 450, and then 500, okay? And then applying those points, I would have a graph that looks like this, okay? So it would be 12 at 480, okay? 50 would be here, that would be 240, okay, like right around here, okay, and you can just generally draw it in, okay, 75 would be 160, right around here, okay, and so on and so forth. If you get a graph that kind of looks slightly like that, okay. Makes sense? Okay, so obviously we can graph these and it would be a lot, we can graph the points and we could find the graph and we can find the pattern, but obviously what we want to do is we want to find an exact value, and with a graph there's a margin of error that we can have, okay? So then part D, it says write an algebraic rule for the fee per camper as a function of the number of campers. Well, an algebraic rule just involves X. Look what we wrote above, okay? X is equal to, if we want to find the fee per camper, we're just going to do 12,000 divided by X. And so if I want to write that as an algebraic rule, I'll write as f of X equals 12,000 divided by X, where X is the number of campers. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to use that function to help us answer the following questions. Okay. So just before we move on to the actual function itself, it says describe the feature of the graph in IMC. When I'm talking about describing, I'm talking about one, whether or not it's discrete or continuous, and in this case it's going to be discrete because you can't have decimal amount of campers, okay? You can't connect the dots, like that would not be a good representation, okay? The second thing that I want to cover is what is happening to y as x changes. So what I can say is as x increases, okay, and these are the descriptions I would be looking for, then f of x or y decreases. Okay, makes sense? Alright, and then it says, based on your work so far, is there a minimum camp fee not counting the cost of meals? If so, explain. Okay, so if we were to look at that, okay, if we were to look at, let's say 500, okay, what I would see is that towards 500, you're approaching 0, so that's why I'm choosing 500, okay? So in other words, if x was 500, okay, and we were to find f of x or y, you would do 12,000 divided by 500, and that would be $24, okay? So, therefore, it would have to, the minimum amount of camp fees would be $24, okay? Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to pause this video and take a second to do the check for understanding. You can do it either in your groups or in your individually. Okay, pause this video now. Okay. So here are the answers for the check for understanding. For number 4, you would get 6. What is the fee per camper? If there's 2,000 campers, you would just do 12,000 divided by 2,000. Okay, and so you would get $6 there. Okay. For the problem number 5, there's multiple answers. What relationship exists between the number of campers and the fee per campers? Okay, you could say as the number of campers increases, the fee in campers decreases. So in other words, as x increases, y decreases. Okay, and then the 6th problem, it says describe the domain and range of the function in the context. Okay, well, if we looked at the domain, it only includes positive integers, which means that it can't go to the negatives because you can't have a negative number of campers, okay? But then for y, you can go towards positive infinity or negative, you can't go towards negative infinity. You have to stop at 0 because you can't have a negative fee per camper, okay? So that's an example you can give for the domain and range. So domain is another way. You could start at 0 to infinity, okay? And then for range, it'd be also 0 to infinity, okay? Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to add an extra element onto this. We're going to talk about the meals, okay? So it says for number 7, the function developed in item 1 did not account for meals. Campers eat 3 meals per day at a cost of $3 per camper meal. The committee must determine a function that includes the cost of meals. We're setting the fee per camper. Okay, what is the total cost for meals per camper each day for 5 days? Okay, so remember, it costs $3 per meal. Okay, and you're eating 3 times a day. So I need to figure out for the total day, it's going to cost them $9 each day. Okay, and then you have for 5 days, you're going to do 9 times 5, and that's going to be $45. Okay, and so in other words, you're going to have $45 per camper. Okay. So now keeping that in mind, what we're going to do is we're going to complete the table in both columns, okay? So it says you're given the number of campers, which I just copied from above, okay? And you're going to be finding the fixed cost plus the cost of the meal, okay? So remember the fixed cost was $12,000, okay? And then it's going to cost them $45 each day, and the number of campers affects that. Okay, so to find that, I'm going to start with my fixed cost, which is $12,000. Okay, and then I'm going to add, it costs $45 per camper, and there's 25 campers. Okay, and so in other words, you're going to have this be $13,125. for the total amount of campers, okay? Okay, so from there, okay, you're going to continue on with that process, but now just changing this variable to be whatever the number of campers is. So for 50, you can do this in your calculator. You can pause it if you want. That would be 14,250. Okay. For 75, that would be 15,375. For 100, so on and so forth, 16,500. Okay. For 200, you're going to get 21,000. Okay. For 500, you're going to get 34,500. And then for 1,000, you're going to get 57,000. Okay. And so for X, to find that final answer, okay, what I was doing before is I was just taking the fixed cost, 12,000, okay, plus 45 times the number of campers X. Okay. Okay, so then what we want to do is we want to find the fee per camper. Well, if this is the total amount for every camper, okay, to find the amount per each camper, okay, what you want to do is you simply want to take the total amount, which would be, here it would be 13,125, and you want to divide it by the amount of campers. So that's going to be 25. Okay. And so that number would be 525 for each camper. Okay. Continue on with that process, but now you're going to do 14,000 divided by 50 is going to be 285. Okay. You're going to do 15,000 divided by 75. That's going to be 205. Continue on with that pattern. You're going to get 165. For 200, you're going to get 105. So the cost per camper is going down. For 500, you're going to get 69. And then for 1,000, you're going to get 57. Okay, so how I found that is I just took 12,000 plus 45 and divided by the amount of campers. Okay. And so now doing that, okay, if I were to plot that graph, pause this video right now to plot that graph, you're gonna plot. This is going to be your X, and that is going to be your Y, because it's the fee per camper. Okay, pause this video now. Okay, so this is what your graph should look like. It should look like a slowly downward spiral, okay? The algebraic rule for the fee per camper, if we were to account both meals and the fixed price, would be f of x equals what I wrote in that last box, 12,000 plus 45x divided by x, okay? Where x represents the number of campers. Okay. So now keeping that in mind, it says, is there a minimum camp fee? If so, what is it? Okay, well, how much did everyone pay per, or how much would each camper have to pay? They would have to pay $45 each for meals, okay? And then you would also have to share the fixed cost by dividing 12,000 by the number of campers, okay? And so that would be how you would find your minimum, okay? And you would need to know what X is because it changes as the amount of campers changes. Okay? And then finally, it says, how does your answer from item 8 differ from the one you gave in item 3? Well, because in item 8, you're accounting the meals. Okay. So therefore, the minimum amount changes. Okay, it increases. Okay. So that's what we're kind of looking at. We're looking at patterns, and we're looking at how can we find a certain function based upon what we were given. Okay. So if you want to stop this video now, these are the problems I'm going to ask you to do for Monday. I am going to check them in because I want to make sure you guys are understanding this. But if you want to pause this video or stop this video now, that's fine. But this is due Monday, okay, along with the next section we're going to do. Okay. All right, so if you want to move on to 27.2, we're going to continue on with that, okay? So this is just basically formulating and graphing. It just simply changes one word, more rational functions, okay? And the learning targets are the same, okay? Okay, so what we're going to do now is we are going to be looking at the same problem, but now we're going to be adding an extra element of what if we're to give out scholarships? How much scholarship should we be giving out, okay? So let's look at that now. So it says summer camp is a rewarding experience for many young children and teenagers. It is not unusual for a nonprofit organization to award scholarships to students. Okay. It says for number 1, the financial committee for the nonprofit summer camp in lesson 27.1 decides to award 30 scholarships to students, okay, who otherwise could not afford the camp. These scholarships include full use of the facilities and all meals at no charge. To help account for scholarships, complete the table below. Okay, so when we're talking about this, okay, remember fixed costs plus the cost of meals is what we found in 27.1. That was that last table. Okay, so I'm just gonna copy down the total cost for that. Okay, for 50 it was 14,250. For 75 it was 15,375. For 100 it was 16,500. Okay. For 200 it was 21,000. Okay. For 500 it was 34,500. Okay. And then for 1,000 it was 57,000. Okay. And how we found that was just by doing the fixed cost 12,000 plus the total cost of meals for every 5 days times the amount of campers. Okay. Okay, so then the next one, it says number of paying campers, okay? Number of paying campers means, how would I find that? Is you would find it by doing the total amount of students, okay, minus the number of scholarships, okay? And in the problem, it says 30 scholarships to students, okay? So if I was to figure that out, okay, what I would want to do is the number of campers would be to find the number of campers, the total minus 30. So 50 minus 30, okay, then 75 minus 30, 45 number of campers who are paying, okay. 100 minus 30 is 70, okay. 200 minus 30 is 170. 500 minus 30 is 470, and then 1,000 minus 30 is 970, okay? And how I found that number is just by doing the number of campers, x minus 30 scholarships, okay? So then, for that last step, it says fee per paying camper, okay? Well, here's what I do, is this is the cost of the total campers. This is the number of paying campers. So what I'm going to do is I'm simply going to take these two numbers and I'm going to divide them by each other. Okay. So if I divide those two numbers, I would get 712.50. Okay. Divide those two numbers, you're going to get 341.67. Okay. For 100, that's going to be $235.71. Okay. For 21,170, that's going to be $123.53. Okay. Divide. Okay. I'm just going to keep going. Okay. And this also makes sense because if you have less paying customers, you're going to have the total amount go up. Okay. And so how I figured that out is just simply by dividing those two parts together. That would be your function. Okay? All right. Pause this video now, okay, and let's graph these, okay? Okay. All right, so it says use an appropriate scale, okay? I'm just gonna say that this is 1,000 because I want to go up to 1,000, okay? And so if I was to break that in half, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. And so if I was to break it in half, it would be 10. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 would be where 500 is located, okay? You can just do it generally like that. Okay, and then fee per paying camper, okay, that's gonna be this line over here, okay, and so you have to go up to 1,000, so I would just go up by 50s, so 50, 100, 150, 200, 250, okay, and then 3, 350, 4, 450, 5, okay, keep going up, okay, and you would look like that, okay, and then I would graph these points and that points, okay, and so I would get a graph that looks like this, okay, something like that, okay, and I'm just graphing it generally as long as you look like me, that's fine, okay, oh, let me do it up here, okay. So like that, okay? Okay. So obviously we can graph, but we want to make sure that we're converting to an algebraic function. So it says write an algebraic model for the fee per paying camper as a function of the number of campers in attendance. Well, look at what we just found, okay? That last box is what tells us our function. So it's going to be f of x is equal to 12,000 plus 45x divided by x minus 30, okay, where x represents the number of campers. Okay. Now, obviously we can put together an equation, but we want to make sure what that means, okay? So it says, what is the meaning of the numerator and the denominator of your model, okay? Well, the numerator, remember, was, okay, the total cost for every camper. Okay. And then your denominator was the amount of campers paying. Okay. So then it says, based on your work so far, is there a minimum camp fee? If so, what is it? Okay. Well, if there was, okay, it again costs $45. You want to consider all the elements. It costs $45 for every meal. Okay. And then what we want to do, it's gonna cost, okay, if we looked at our greatest amount, okay, it's gonna cost, show you guys, okay, it's gonna cost this much, okay, minus the fee that amount of campers pay, okay, so that's gonna be 13,350 divided by the amount of campers paying, okay. And then it says, how does your answer differ from the one you gave in item A? Well, what's changing? That's what I want to ask myself, okay? What's changing is the amount of scholarships. Let me look at that. Okay, scholarships given to campers. Okay. Again, we're just like answering all the problems as it pertains to like a certain like model. Okay, so it says, how does the graph in item 1b compare to the one in item 7c from the previous lesson? Remember, the one in 7c was that discrete model. Okay, so again, the graph is decreasing. Okay, it's also discrete. Okay. Okay. And is approaching 45. Okay. The thing that changes, this is what's the same. The thing that changes is the x values are greater than 30. Because if you have it less than 30, okay, then you're going to have a negative amount of campers, which would not make sense in the context of the problem. All right, so up for the question, it says, recall that a nonprofit camp, the camp should not make any profit, but still must cover its cost to stay in operation. So it says, last year the weekly camp fee was $80. If the camp charges the same amount and grants 30 scholarships, what's the minimum number of paying campers that must attend the camp so that the camp does not lose out? Okay, so here's what I want to think, okay, is it cost each camper, the fee was $80, okay? And so what we want to do is, if the campus charges the same amount and grant 30 scholarships, what's the minimum number of paying campers that must attend? So in other words, what you're finding is trying to find x, and you're given f of x, okay? So looking at our function from above, this function right here, okay, you're going to set that equation equal to 80, okay? And so when I do that, I'm going to do 80 equals 12,000. Okay, so use your function whenever you have it, plus 45x divided by x minus 30. Okay, how I would solve for x from there is I would cross multiply. Okay, and so you would get 80. Make sure you put it in parentheses x minus 30. And then 1 times that is just the numerator. Okay. And then solve this problem like you would solve for x. Distribute through, you would get 80x minus, that's going to be 2,400, okay, equals that, okay. And so I'm going to subtract 45x over, you're going to get 35x, okay, and then I'm going to add 2,400 to both sides. You would get 1,400. Let me just make sure I'm doing this right. Or 14,000. Okay. 14,400. Okay. And then divide by 35. You would get x is going to be equal to 411.429. Now, obviously, that would be the answer if we were to give it in exact terms. But let's think about it in the context of the problem. X represented the amount of campers. Can we have a decimal amount of campers? No, we cannot have that. So if we want to cover the cost, we don't want to round this down because otherwise it won't meet the cost. So what we're going to do is we're going to round it up to 412 campers. Okay? Otherwise, we're not going to meet the cost, which would be not that good for the camp. Okay. So keeping that in mind, it says express the number of campers as a function of the fee each is paying, okay? So here's what we want to do is, what we're going to do is basically like this, okay? Okay. It says express the number of campers as a function, okay? That means we have to solve for x, okay? So how we do that is like this, okay? We are going to set this equal to y, and you're going to have it be 12,000 plus 45x over x minus 30. Okay. And you're solving for x, which means I have to find x, okay? So cross multiply, you're going to get y times x minus 30 equals, this is just the numerator, 12,000 plus 45x, okay? Distribute this, you're going to get yx minus 30y equals 12,000 plus 45x, okay? Here's what I'm going to do, okay, is I am going to solve for x. That means I need to get x's all to one side and everything else together, okay? So this needs to be moved by adding 30y, and this needs to be moved by subtracting 45x. So rearranging that, you get yx minus 45x equals 12,000 plus 30y, okay? And from this section, you're solving for x. What's the GCF? The GCF is x. So I'm going to have to pull out an x, and I'm going to be left over with y minus 45. Yep. Okay. And that's going to equal 12,000 plus 30y. Okay. And then remember, this is just multiplying, so to solve for x, I'm finally going to divide. Okay. Okay. And that's what you're going to get. Okay. 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 And that's your function. Okay. Now, if you were to plug this into a calculator, okay, I would just name it as a new function. You don't have to necessarily do this, but I would say like g of x equals, just replace the y's with x's. Okay. So it's essentially you're finding the inverse. Okay. But those are two options you can have. Okay. Okay, so remember what I just said. You were solving for x, which means you were undoing everything. You were doing the opposite of whatever was given to you. So what's the relationship between the function and the function from just this item? Well, they're opposites, which means they're inverses. So it all connects. Okay. Makes sense? Okay, so remember, whenever you're trying to find, like, you're trying to express the number of campers or find certain amounts, you need to remember whatever your variables were. X was the amount of campers, so you're solving for x. That's the idea there. Okay? Alright, here's an exit slip, okay, and then you can check your answers from down below, okay? But other than that, that is both lessons all together, okay? And then you will also have to do these problems, so 16 through 20 and lesson 27.2. You're also going to have to do the problems from 27.1, which were, okay, numbers 13 through 17, okay? Both of these problems are due to Monday. I'm giving you 2 days to do this, so make sure you complete it. But other than that, you guys can sign off, and thanks for listening. Bye.